नमस्ते, हमेशा खुश रहिए. I am Jv'n Dr. Lily Trivedi, and today I am going to give a lecture on the ozone layer as well as the ozone hole. Now, what is ozone layer? Now, as we all know, the oxygen molecule is very much abundant in the atmosphere. Now, what happens here that it is split apart into two nascent oxygen when it is energized by radiation in the sun. So these atoms which are free, which collide with other oxygen molecules to form O3, that is O2 plus nascent O combines to give form to O3. So this is called the ozone, and this forms the ozone layer, and the ozone molecules allows them to absorb the sun radiation in ultraviolet wavelengths that is harmful to life if they penetrate the earth's surface. So the ozone layer is overall the concentration of ozone layer is required for the prevention of ultraviolet radiation to penetrate and enter the earth's atmosphere. Now what happens here, this shield is again degraded because ozone is produced through a series of chemical reactions involving hydrocarbons and nitrogen oxide emissions from vehicles, industrial activity, etc. So the ozone plays very two different roles in global environmental change. One in the stratosphere as a shield against harmful ultraviolet radiation, and another nearer to the ground in the troposphere as greenhouse gas find a health hazard. So this is the basic of ozone layer. Now the main study here is ozone layer depletion. Joseph Farman of British Meteorological Survey and colleagues reported in the Scientific Journal of Nature that the concentration of the stratospheric ozone above the Antarctica had gone down to more than 40% in 1960s, and from 1960s to 1984. That means for several months of the year, a hole was forming in the ozone layer. And this layer which used to protect the animal and plants. So the depletion of this ozone layer was very high and forming a big ozone hole. Now what was the effect of this ozone hole? Now as the ozone hole was open, there was direct exposure of ultraviolet radiations which could damage the human immune system, cause cataract, and increase in the incidence of skin cancer. It was estimated that the skin cancer could rise from 2% for each 1% depletion of stratospheric ozone layer. There was sensitivity towards the ultraviolet exposure, and soybean, one of the crops which was staple food crops, was particularly susceptible to ozone damage, including beet, peas, squash, melon, and cabbage family. This reduced the leaf size, stunted growth, and poor seed quality, and also it exposed them to weed, disease, and pests. On the animal system or marine life, the microscopic algae, that is phytoplankton, was killed by these ultraviolet radiations, therefore it resulted in slow photosynthesis and less productivity. And as such, tiny crustaceans which are in the food chain, then the fish, the birds, the mammals, the sea, the whales, all were being affected by this radiation of ultraviolet to the ozone hole. Though some phytoplanktons were tolerant to the ultraviolet radiation, but not many were. So the Montreal Protocol on substances that deplete the ozone layer was negotiated in September 1987. which called for the 50% reduction in CFC production from 1986 to 1999. It included 49 nations, Canada, USA, Japan, Europe, etc. And the protocol was a delicate balance between the up-to-date scientific information, reliable industrial expertise, and committed political leadership. Thereafter, also many conventions have taken place, several conferences related to global climate change due to depletion of ozone layer. The Vienna Convention for Protocol of Ozone Layer, and this was signed by various countries, and this led to the minimum health hazard. So the meetings were also there there was to assess the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. The Montreal Protocol was there in September 16, 1987, and this was signed by 24 countries. And it said to seek the inhibition and consumption, production, and trade of ozone depleting compounds. The International Conference on the Protection of Global Atmosphere, The Hague in Netherlands, in March 11, 1989, and it was the Hague Declaration. So it was there to provide an atmospheric fund, which was there for the compensation to countries which were bearing abnormal or special burden due to their steps to protect the atmosphere. In 1992, there was the Rio de Janeiro 3 to 14 June 1992 summit, the Earth Summit of United Nations Conference. So there was the Agenda 21 of 800 pages on how the country should go to achieve sustainable development. So these all were the steps taken to control the ozone layer. But the success was very less. The success was mainly based on the use of less of ozone forming layer. But presently, we have seen that the ozone hole has repaired itself during the lockdown period. In the lockdown period due to COVID-19, there was a lockdown of all industries, all vehicles, and all kind of traffic, pollution, etc. And this led to the repair of the ozone hole, and now it has completely been the ozone hole is clear, and now we have the ozone layer, which is now preventing all the harmful ultraviolet radiations to enter the Earth's atmosphere. So students, I hope you have liked my lecture. This session was powered by digital version 2.0 of JVWU-ozone Women's University. Namaste.